Nathan,
We are live.
I believe in you.
I guess I'm just doing everything
You're
tonight.
doing
Kristin.
everything tonight.
Welcome everybody to the newest episode.
It's my birthday and I'm not
of
doing
Sass
shit.
in the Beard. It's Kristin's birthday.
Woo!
Say happy birthday to Kristin. She's 29.
That's right.
Mhm.
That is absolutely correct.
Right? Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad you named.
It is my prerogative to keep up with these details.
Thank you. Thank you.
So welcome. We've got a few things to discuss with you this evening. We are here in the Offbeat Time studio, and we are excited to present our newest episode. We've been away for a little bit. There's been a lot of stuff going on. Kristin did an amazing job
You've been
at
away.
election coverage. And then last week we took off. Well, it wasn't really like you did election
I
coverage.
did Tuesday night, and then
yeah.
Wednesday we didn't do a show
Right.
because we'd done that Tuesday night because I was so tired I couldn't see straight.
Yeah, because you've been working hard.
Oh my God, I'm so
Yes.
tired, Nathan.
And we will get into that and the things that with your job that you have been doing. That's part of what we're going to talk about today. But first, I got to talk about something good. A lot of times we are berated by members of our community for not talking about good things. And we do talk about good things when they occur, but also like good things happen and people are involved with those. Like that's not like we want to share that, but like we are really here to talk about the issues that really affect everybody, in a negative way, so that the awareness can make change.
Well, the thing we tend to hear is like, why can't you say nice things about the school? There are so many good things happening in the Russellville School District.
Yeah.
And man, I totally agree. There are so many good things. But the good things are coming from the educators and the students.
Right.
And we cover the school board.
Right.
And the school board hadn't been up to a whole lot of great stuff lately.
There's been a lot of concern about, decisions, especially over the last several years, that we have steadily seen. It's not like there's just been knocking out of the park decisions,
right?
And
I love when we get to talk about good stuff. We are going to talk about good stuff, but I do think it's important for people to remember that, like, part of how we got to the point of needing what we do is that the groups, the entities that should have been doing accountability,
right.
Journalism, the media, and I don't say that to blame the people who are actually out there doing the work in the field. But the people who manage those entities tend to be very averse to anything that could cost them advertising dollars.
Sure.
We, on the other hand,
we've even been
wouldn't know what to do with advertising dollars. We've been broke forever. Nobody pays us for shit hardly.
But we do thank Planned Parenthood.
We do have a few wonderful advertisers that do support us.
You so much.
And look, y'all go get your golden ass from Plant Parlor. It's
I've had 4 people tell me that because of our show they bought one.
I know. I had a lady come up to me just randomly at the play they did at Old Bank and say, I went to Plant Parlor and bought a golden ass. And I'm like, I love that so much. Yes, so we do like to talk about good things, but also, like, that's really not why people tune into us. And there are so many other places that are doing that, and we love them. Mm-hmm. Like, we don't put down the places that are saying good things.
No.
We love that that's happening. That's just not really... Our lane is not to hype people up without accountability.
Yeah.
Like, we focus on accountability, but some folks we do want to hype up are the young people who are being involved.
So the city of Russellville created a youth council. And last night there were almost 30 teenagers from the Russellville School District that had applied to be members of the youth council, and they were sworn in. We had a little reception for them before the agenda prep meeting, and then they attended the agenda prep meeting, which was just full of exciting things like appropriations.
Ooh,
and
the really sexy stuff.
Readings, there weren't any like really crazy issues to deal with.
Like you really got to pumped with tax revenue
right.
and
trash pickup.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about whether or not that we're going to discuss a new trash
like the people of Russellville
provider.
Talk about it.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we tasked them with was for this first class is to create the guidelines for their new program.
That's
like
right.
there are already some rules and guidelines set up for other programs all across the country, so we're not asking them to rewrite and make up something that's.
But we do the kind of thing that y'all do at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of the year, where you kind of set your policies and procedures for the year. It's not setting a law or an ordinance. It's more of how we're going to conduct ourselves, how we're going to carry things out. We're going to talk about that a little more later, but but that's kind of the step they did, and they were sworn in and everything, right? Which is so wonderful. Yeah. I really love that's happening. I love to see young people getting involved and engaged and understanding the power of local government. I know a guy in Helena. He's the mayor of Helena, and he got elected to the school board at 18 years old.
The youngest mayor was
no, that's a different guy.
No,
that's
different guy.
That's Jalen and Earl.
Oh, from Earl. Yeah.
But the governor or the mayor of Helena, he got elected to the school board right after high school. And now he's in his 40s, and he's consistently stayed in office from school board to city council to now mayor. But I just thought that was so cool. And somebody running for school board right out of high school is such a great thing. You bring this really amazing perspective that's
all the
so
problems.
often, right? When you see it, you've been right there. So I just think it's really wonderful, to see. And this is what I think is great about what y'all are facilitating there, is to get people when they're young and involved and understand the process and why this stuff matters. It just has so much value.
Yeah, and hopefully they will, one of the other things that we asked them to do is, over the time that they're here, is to create an ordinance of something that they would like to see happen in the community. And we're going to walk through them with that. They're going to meet with several of the
you need to come in
directors
give them something.
Departments.
Give them something salty to bring, you need to come throw down with them.
Here's how you question
Here's how you question authority. Actually, I got invited to speak at something recently, and that's what I'm going to talk about.
That's great.
It's disruptive leadership. I love it.
Yeah. Here's how you make an FOI request.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So, that's some good news. Kristin, last week you talked about election results.
It's okay if you say we, because I refer to us as we. When I was there doing the election results, it was just me. It's just me. But I kept saying we. I realized that later. I was like, so we're here. I'm used to being us. We are here.
We presented the results of the election last week, and there is going to be a runoff in one particular race that is, I'm sure, important to everyone. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, Russellville School Board, there is a runoff election coming up. Early voting for that election begins March 26th, so just a couple weeks out. And the election day is April 2nd. Someone asked us in a message earlier if they'll have Saturday voting during that, and I'm actually not sure. So I'm going to look into that and get back to folks. But I believe it's Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30, and then the election day, April 2nd, will be open 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. That is Joe Stokowski and Tracy Reinhardt. They both participated in our candidate forum. Mm-hmm. And so folks are, unsure, want to go vote on that. They can go back and check out our candidate forum to get some information on both candidates.
And we split those up, right?
We did.
Yeah, we cut them up in segments.
And you didn't have to vote in the primary to be able to go vote in the runoff.
Okay, yeah.
If you missed the primary for some reason, Lord, I think everybody's gotten the flu at some point recently.
Yeah.
If you missed, you can still vote in the runoff election. The only kind of limitation there is typically if you voted like a Republican ballot, you have to vote a Republican ballot again. You can't cross over at that point. But this is school board, so it's on both.
It's on all the ballots.
So it's totally irrelevant to this. But a lot of people had questions around the election about school millage elections, school millage votes. That is something that's laid out in the Arkansas Constitution that requires school districts to put their millage on the ballot every cycle, regardless of whether there's a change or not. And so a lot of times when you see those, it's not that the millage is going up or down; it's staying the same. They're just required.
And it doesn't even change even if people vote
right.
no.
Even if people vote no,
yeah.
as long as it's staying the same.
Yeah.
But it is an important vote because, you know, if a community is looking at increasing their millage rates, they're going to look at those previous elections to see if there is an appetite for it or not.
Right.
But that is why those appear on the ballot. The other thing I think is confusing to folks is that, you know, while like a school board or a JP race goes to a runoff and it happens 4 weeks later, the judicial elections, if they go to a runoff, like the state Supreme Court race for Chief Justice, those will appear on the regular November ballot. They don't appear on the runoff ballot in 4 weeks.
They don't do it, especially they want more.
They go all the way to November. It's just a weird, you know, it's the thing where like when laws get created, it's kind of whoever's in office at that time.
Right. This is why they did it
and
that way.
sometimes they didn't look back and try to make it consistent with how other things are done. And so we end up with these sort of weird rules for different, like, government entities, you know. But yeah, so that is coming up. Will be important.
Yeah, I am excited to see that there was a runoff in the school board election because I feel like it gives more opportunity for people to make a decision. With 4 candidates, it's almost impossible for there not to be one.
I will say something that folks should know is, you know, we don't endorse or oppose candidates with the show, but one thing that often happens to people in a runoff is like whoever was in the lead, which in this case was Joe Sikowski.
Yeah.
Then their people don't show up for the next election because they've got it in the bag. And the underdog, their people will show up because there's a fight, right?
Yeah, second place.
And, and a lot of times we see that happen and the underdog ends up winning the race because the leaders, people just didn't show up. And so, you know, your vote really matters in these. The turnout was so low in the primary anyway, and in a runoff it's going to be even lower. Like, this is something that's going to get decided by probably 10% of the electorate. So it's just really important.
There could be a less than 10 vote, like...
Very much,
This could be one of those situations where we see a win by so small of a margin. So, please, go vote.
Yes, starting March 26th.
There's plenty of time.
Yep.
You know, go on your day off. Go.
On election day, 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. You got time.
Plenty of time.
It really does matter. I hope folks will get out there.
I wish there was a better solution to, you know, our 21st century issues when it comes to voting.
There are, but we won't implement them.
However, we can't change that today. So, there are people working to make those decisions better, and there are people working against making those decisions better. And the only way they change is if you actually go vote. So.
Yes, I've been experiencing that recently.
Yes, that was it. See, I was trying to get the segue.
Good segue. I was trying to help you out.
Yeah, so you, Kristin, work for a wonderful organization that helps people get registered to vote. The more people that are registered to vote, the better opportunity for representation, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion. So, recently we had talked on the show about how your organization had created this, you know, online check your voter registration, fill out the form, do this thing, and that it had seemed to be accepted by the Secretary of State's office.
Yeah, it was. No, not seemed to be. It was.
Yeah.
It was. In writing. They said, it's good. It's solid. You're good to go. No problems.
But something tells me that may have changed.
Well, there was an Arkansas Times article that came out that talked about how popular our online form was with young people. So we've been taking this form into high schools and letting folks register to vote. You know, if you're in Arkansas and you're a senior in high school, as long as you'll be 18 before the election, you can go ahead and register.
That's one thing we mentioned at the youth council.
Right, now you can't vote until you're 18.
Right.
But as long as you'll be 18 before you vote, then that's fine. And so we take it, and you know, we had problems in the past where we'll go and try to do these, and man, we can't get these young people to fill out paper forms, which I don't blame them. Look, it literally, I have to force myself to fill out a paper form.
Yeah,
I type everything, like sitting down and writing with paper is like a punishment to me.
Yeah.
But that's why you have notes right here, and I have a blank piece of paper next to me. But and my notes are on my computer. But
I like my writing.
You have lovely writing. But so yes, Secretary of State came out, reversed his stance, opposed what we're doing, changed his opposition a couple of different times. He's changed what he said, but we are not done.
You mean he's given different innocuous reasons for disagreeing?
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Okay.
Yeah, so initially he told people they should not accept our electronic signatures, but then...
Because they weren't wet enough.
They weren't wet, yeah. They were not moist signatures. And then... But Arkansas does not have a wet signature law now. Mm-hmm. Now, the likelihood that the legislature will come through and pass one because they don't want people to vote is very high. But until that point, we stand very strong that our signatures on our applications are valid under law that's been in place for 25 years. It's what allows you, if you did vote in the primary election recently, you didn't sign a big paper poll book like you used to.
Right.
You
signed it digitally.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, that wasn't a wet signature.
Right, nope, that is an electronic signature.
Unless you're licking the thing. Wait.
But then they changed their mind and they said, wait, that's not really working out. So we're going to say that you can't have online voter registration, which is true. Arkansas does not have online voter registration. But that's not what you're doing. Well, all of the paper forms we have to print out and submit would say otherwise.
Yeah.
Right, like just stacks of paper we have to take to county clerk.
They fill it out online and then you convert it to paper.
Yeah, we just print the paper off and submit it. Yeah, so anyways, we are not done though. We're working with attorneys. We're trying to work with county clerks. We're doing everything we can because ultimately our mission is to make sure that every eligible voter in Arkansas can register and cast their vote. And it's, sometimes people assume because it's Senator Elliott's organization that we're out here and we're just promoting
liberals,
Democrats, whatever.
Communists.
The other day,
socialism.
I was on the phone on email with a county clerk in, I think like Carroll County, Clark County, I can't remember where it was at, and going to bat for a Republican who registered and they didn't want to accept his form because he put the address in the wrong little box, but then they were going to mail him a form using that address to tell him to fill out a new form. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, so the state will accept his address if we're sending him the form, but not if it's in the wrong section on this piece of paper.
Exactly. And so, that's our thing, though, is that I'm so proud to work for Senator Elliott, who is a fighter, who does not back down easily, who will stand up for people when it's right, and I'm glad I get to be a part of that, and that's what we're doing. We're still standing up. We're doing a training to start people off tomorrow night, Thursday night. Folks can sign up for that with getloudarkansas.org to teach people how to identify these issues in their communities when there is voter suppression, and then, because that's exactly what this is. This is voter suppression.
Yeah.
This is seeing that it's being used by a certain group of people and then changing your mind because you don't want those people to vote.
Yeah.
And we see it all the time. And so, people often think that voter suppression is like something that ended with civil rights, but it is things like this. It's very sneaky.
No, the same issue with the federal government trying to ban TikTok, is voter suppression, because you have this app that the kids are using to share information with each other about things that that they care about. And it's not just dances, it's not just like stupid videos.
Although it is my favorite thing to hear what their algorithm's feeding them.
Right. I love that. But they are also sharing information about what states are doing with different laws, or what the federal government's doing with different laws. And
it is the thing. And the thing with this that people don't, I think, understand sometimes is, ultimately, even if you sign your application online, or if you sign it on paper, when you go to vote, you still have to show your ID. You still have to prove your identity.
Yeah.
And
there's a person that makes sure that you are who you are.
Yeah, and nobody's opposed to that, right? Nobody's opposed to some basic, most of us are not opposed to just normal voter ID.
I'm not trying to get the dead grandmother who happened to be a Democrat to vote, Absolutely not. Yeah, no, it has been very stressful. It's been very intense. If I have
maybe slack on some things with. What we do here, that's probably why I thought that when election day came, I would have a break and would get to kind of wind down for a few weeks. And then this hit right at the same time. And so we've immediately had to kind of go into, full on defense mode to protect voters here. And we're not backing down from it. We are going to hold the fucking line.
What can people do to help with this? Is there somebody they can contact? Is there an office of the Secretary of State, or is there a specific legislative issue that could help?
Not currently. I would encourage people, if you want to get involved in this, like I said, we are hosting a voter protection training. It's going to be something that is ongoing until November. It's not going to be like a one and done thing. We're trying to recruit people on the ground because we monitor voter registration, so that if somebody does get rejected, we want to have people on the ground that can respond to that immediately in real time and make sure those folks get registered, because we see it happen. We're seeing, high school students get rejected for really weak reasons because they just simply don't want them to vote.
Right.
So, so that's what we're doing. That's what I would recommend right now. And I do think there's going to come a time where there will be legislative issues, where there will be like collective action that needs to take place. But right now, I would encourage people to join our training. Like I said, that's getloudarkansas.org. You can sign up to volunteer. We'll get you added. It'll be informative. We're going to talk about a lot of things that are going on, voter purges, and lots of different ways that things like this happen without really being noticed a lot of times.
Yeah.
I mean, 130,000 voters were purged from the rolls in the last year, just because they missed an election.
What percentage of voters is that in Arkansas?
That is just
under 10 voters?
Under 10%.
Yeah.
We have 1.7 million. It's about 8% of the rolls. Yeah, it's crazy. That's my job. That's what I do. So anyways, that's happening.
Yeah, and I mean, like, when it comes to contacting our elected officials, in some areas I think there might be ways that you can do that wouldn't necessarily be beneficial. But, we all have phones, we all have tablets or computers of some kind. But if you are an employee at the Russellville School District and you want to talk to your school board,
you're an elected official.
Right.
You'd like to exercise your right to free speech.
Yeah, you definitely can't do that while you're at work.
So last night the Russellville School Board passed a new technology policy that really expanded what they consider district technology, basically, to say that, to me the way it reads is that if you've used your phone connected to district Wi-Fi, there's a chance that could be considered using a district device because you're using the district's Wi-Fi.
Or the computer that you have for work, if you use that to contact, via email, because it's easier to type on a computer than on your phone. Right.
And so folks just need to be really careful. It doesn't just, it's for teachers, educators, people who work in the school district, be careful.
It also said that you could not post political opinions that disagree with the school board, you cannot express a political opinion.
You can't use a district technology resource, which is where we're saying could be your phone, your own cell phone.
But it's no, go up to the beginning. No, I'm pretty sure it had copies or okay, maybe not.
No, it's all about the district.
I thought I saw where it said they had to agree with.
The thing that gets me in the language on this. So teachers, educators, school staff, you can look back. This was on the school board agenda last night. You can see the particular language. But the thing that gets me is where it says technology resources mean, under definitions, devices used to process information through electronic capture. To me, that means that could mean that if you've ever used your phone for school purposes, or your personal email, or your personal computer, that then that falls under this. And what it really comes down to is we don't want you to be contacting the school board.
Right. Yeah.
We don't want you to tell your elected officials what you're upset about as an employee of the district. And that is, honestly, I think, I'm no lawyer, but like, I think if somebody took that to court, they'd have a really hard time upholding that, because you don't just lose your First Amendment rights because you work for a school district. Now, obviously, there are limits to what you can do when you're at school, on school hours, through your school email address, things like that. But I believe this is really just intended to just dissuade contact in general, because we know that people have been reaching out, that educators have been reaching out to their school board members.
I mean, because like, who's talking to, what teachers are contacting the school board about books in the library? You know, not very many. Like, they're talking about
the superintendent.
Yeah.
They're contacting about frustration with the superintendent.
our admin issues, things that, that they don't agree with, decisions that have been made.
Yeah.
But again, like, why are we policing that? Because these are the people that the school board should want to hear from the most, because they are living with the consequences of their day-to-day decisions.
Yeah, so it says that district technology resources shall not be used to engage in lobbying an elected official on a personal opinion by an employee unless the employee is a registered lobbyist for the district. That's pretty broad language that I'm going to be really interested, especially now that educators don't have the Teacher Fair Dismissal Act to protect them.
Yeah.
How this is
see a lot more nitpicky things that could cause you to lose your job.
Yeah.
It says within the scope of their regular job duties or requested.
Unless the opinion is within the scope or requested by,
So, like, if they ask you a question, you can answer it all day long. But if you want to talk about something that affects you,
don't say it.
You better do it on your husband's phone or your wife's phone.
This is the thing that gets me is like, we see this sometimes. We've been doing this for a while, and it seems like people go one of two ways, right? They either go, "Oh shit, we've got to do better. We're going to tighten up because we know we're under scrutiny, and we've got to do better." We've seen that from the city. We've seen it from the quorum court here. That when they had always just kind of been operating under these sort of loose rules, because nobody was paying attention.
Right.
But then when people started paying attention, they went, oh, like they weren't it wasn't even intentional. Like they weren't intentionally
negative.
Right. Like it was just like, oh, this is the way it's always been done.
Right.
And they're not lawyers. They're not really. They're not even really politicians. They're local level people who are doing service. They are public servants.
Right.
And
they're trying to do the best, make the best decision with the information they're given.
Right. And so like. You expect to see some things happen. You want to give people grace to just be normal humans, but then alternatively, you see sometimes folks who do this, where they like double down. We're gonna just try to clamp this down, stop anybody from talking, and it never works. That never works. Like the minute you tell people you're not allowed to talk about this, they are going to immediately talk about it.
I'm just trying to think of like, is this a problem for them? Well, they got a whole bunch of teachers that are trying to gripe at them about things?
I think teachers have been reaching out about
concerns. But still,
with
why are you trying to stop? Like, I can't, as a elected official, I can't stop people from contacting me. They got my personal phone number all over the city website. The school board members don't even have their phone number.
This includes you as well, though. They can't reach out to you either.
Listen, if you're a teacher and you got a problem with something the city's doing, you can reach out to me anytime.
I wonder how that works with like your wife
texting me.
Yeah, about anything. If she's just like,
maybe that's why they did.
That's why. The only reason I bring that up is just that I don't want people. I would hate to see people end up in trouble or lose their jobs over just trying to engage, right? And so. we want people to be aware of this because it does matter. You know, it's not worth losing your job most of the time, and we don't want somebody to get screwed over just because they didn't know what was happening.
In a world where it's hard to retain employees that do a very important job.
Yeah, how many administrators resigned this week? 2 principals.
Yeah. And like, good.
Putting
One
a
of them
notice
from
to resign at the end of the year.
from one of the best schools in the district. You know, it's not like it's
a lot.
It's not like that. You know, this job is difficult because there are these high expectations that aren't able to be met.
Yeah.
Like, they're leaving. And in some cases, not leaving to go to administration, but to go back to teaching, or leaving for good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it blows my mind that there's not just this huge wave of positive enforcing, like, rules, positive reinforcement, like, which works better, vinegar or honey?
Yeah, I mean,
we raise their pay, you know, some of it.
Yeah, well, they got to raise some people's pay, but it ain't the teachers. All right, so let's move on. Let's move on to casino because it is my birthday and I want to go home and make that choice.
We were talking about good things, and then we had to talk about that, and now I'm mad. So yes, but the casino is coming. Hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. Yes. So 2 things there. One, we saw notice that the first kind of step in the rule process has happened. Now it'll still continue. It's not done,
It's been reviewed.
The committee, the racing commission reviewed the rules and approved them after the public comment period. Now that'll go to ALC, which is the legislative committee, and has a couple steps. But they expect to see an application period open up around May.
Sweet.
A 30-day application period.
So there'll be 30. So then by June, that will be over, right? Because it's 30 days.
Yes.
And then they will take some time to review the applications.
Mm-hmm. They have to publish a rubric and do all the things, and but yeah, and they're doing a really good job of trying to keep it really like tight and within the law, and try to avoid litigation against this issue. So that's really positive. It's really good to see. I think we're going to see a license issued before the election in November, and that will hopefully be a license that is, right and tight and ready to be upheld under law.
Man, I just really hesitate to make a prediction about it because everyone we've ever made has just been like, 4 more years.
4 more years. I know. I'm like, how many times have I been like, I think in the next year. Now 6 years later. 6 years later. It's crazy.
Yes.
But again, this is an example of how accountability impacts government, right? Like, yes, a lot of us disagreed with it. We didn't like it. But the good thing that comes out of it is all these folks who filed lawsuits did disagree. They did force the government to be right on their rules. Like, have their act together and do it right. Yeah. Don't be sloppy. No more good old boy system. Right. You got to do it right. Yeah. And that I appreciate and can respect. Now, I disagree with their stance, but I can appreciate how important accountability is and how much of a benefit it has on our government.
Yes, and hopefully how much better it will be for our community in the long run, so that we don't stay angry at that group for basically costing several tens of millions of dollars in tax revenue. I'm gonna stay real angry.
For a lot of reasons. I'm looking forward to it. Well, that group did get their attempt to get a amendment going to be able to remove the Polk County casino license. They did receive notification that that attempt failed. So far, their ballot title was rejected.
Okay.
For several reasons.
Is this the first time or second time?
First time for this one, which is expected. Pretty much every ballot title gets rejected on the first round. But basically, they went in to say that they the way that they referenced how an election should be conducted, a special election, if because they have this thing kind of tied in. We're like, rescind the Pope County Casino, and if there's going to be one, it has to go to a local vote, right? But the way they wrote it references a state statute around how the election should be conducted, and that's a problem because you're then combining a constitutional amendment and a state statute into the same language. So they rejected it on that. I don't think that'll be a huge issue to correct for them, but then there were a few things that I thought were funny about just issues with the popular name length, like that it's just so long, the way they worded it. And even better, though, was just this whole section about grammatical issues. And listen, I can tell when I read that amendment that they have, you can absolutely tell the difference between the part that the high-priced attorneys from last cycle wrote and the part that Anna Sterritz wrote. It's like if you had the youth council writing an ordinance and then like the attorney for the city writing an ordinance. Nothing wrong with the youth council. I'm glad they're making the effort, but yeah, just
or like me writing the ordinance,
right?
Versus
like just,
the attorney.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. There's just like all
the kids could probably write it better than me.
I'll be like impressive. Thank you. But no, they just a bunch of stuff on grammatical issues and the way they laid it out. I think that they'll amend it. They'll probably resubmit it, and they'll probably get it through eventually. There are a lot of ballot issues out collecting signatures right now. A lot.
I guess everybody's trying to get theirs in before the rules change. Because every couple of years they try to change the rules to make it more complex and difficult to get, the people, pregnant populace and all that.
So proud of you. Look, so, there's been a challenge because one of the last things they did on that front was to take it from where you have to have like a certain percentage of signatures from at least 15 counties, and they increased it to 55 counties out of 75.
Right.
And there's been a hearing going on with that. There were issues with standing in that, like who can actually bring the lawsuit. You have to be an impacted party. They allowed for an amendment. So there are some things going on with that, but like, the likelihood that we will get a judgment in time for when these signatures are due is going to be unlikely.
Yeah.
So
we have to follow the rule until it.
Yeah. So they have to look at the 55 counties, and go from there. Which is hard, man. It's really hard. It's really hard to get that many counties. It's hard to get 15, honestly. Especially if it's volunteers. Like you almost have to be running a multi-million-dollar campaign to be able to get those signatures. But the argument for these laws is always, well, we're trying to make it more representative of the people.
Yeah.
But then you make it where it's so difficult that the people could never do it.
Yeah. It's representative of the dollars that are behind the ballot type.
Yeah.
I think the Golden Ass Award this week goes to the Secretary of State.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fuck John Thurston.
I don't know that you should. I mean, he might hear you say that.
I mean, I don't want to.
Oh.
I'm saying just in general, fuck that guy. No,
this is a family show.
It is not.
No, it is not.
It is absolutely not. If you think this is a family show, you haven't been here before.
According to some past advertisers, it should have been a family show, but they weren't paying that much money.
They can kiss my ass.
Listen, it's Kristin's birthday. Wish her happy birthday on all the social medias and in person if you get to see her. We really appreciate all of you. We do appreciate our sponsors as well. Please share this video with your friends and let them know what's going on locally, in politics, and otherwise. And we will see you all next week.
Now you gotta run around and stop it.